haven't pre-ordered F1 2017 just yet, guys, don't forget to check out Simply Games for a brilliant price as well. Be top link down the description, guys, and if you order through that link, you also help me out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 7 of my F1 2017 McLaren Honda Career Mode, and today we are here for the Canadian Grand Prix. And if you did miss out on last episode, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But just having a look then at the resource points that we were able to bank from that race, took us up to a 134 points there. We actually were able also to win the rivalry against my teammate Stoffel Van Dorn and get myself nicely back up into the purple there. And that actually gave me good news from Emma.
I've been talking about your contract, and we all agree the only thing better than a number 2 driver is a number 1 driver. Here are the details.
So that is very ideal then. Number 1 driver in the McLaren team. I think, you know, it's only been fair. We have walked over Stoffel Van Dorn over the first half of, well, the first 6 races of this season, and we've out-qualified him, we've out-raced him near enough every time, and we've easily scored a lot more points than him on the whole over the first few races of this season. You know, that also means that I do get more R&D points from each session now, which really, you know, sort of just means that the team can upgrade the car quicker, and that is just very useful with how far behind most of the field we are. And, you know, that can give me a really big confidence boost moving on into the Canadian Grand Prix. And obviously, straight away, we are going to start this like we do every other weekend of the season with the track acclimatization lap, and it's going to be a green score there. We just miss out on the purple by 5 points there, but, you know, I was still happy enough with that as we now move on to the tyre wear lap, and, well, we've absolutely smashed that one in the purple. That is the most purpley purple lap I think I've ever done on any F1 game ever there, so very happy with that. And now on to the fuel saving, and unfortunately we've just gone from the most purpley purple to a pretty torrid lap there on the fuel saving. This McLaren Honda really struggling down the very long straights around this Canadian Grand Prix. But now, as we move on into the qualifying simulation run, coming through the final corner there, you know, don't really want to push the car too hard in free practice, but down towards the line we actually do get the purple score for the first time there on the qualifying simulation run, so very happy with that. A nice, useful 50 R&D points back from there, which I think should mean about 180 overall, I'm going to guess, around about there, after all of those qualifying runs. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does happen with that. 179, so I wasn't exactly too far off.
Everyone's talking about this new rival you have. Check his stats out.
So we've also now as well got a new rival coming into the Canadian Grand Prix. Very ideal. Danny Kvyat is our new rival, and that Toro Rosso car, you know, he was stuck right behind me at the end of the Monaco Grand Prix, if you did miss out on that video. So that's quite interesting, though. It'll be interesting to see how we do fare against the Toro Rosso driver there. You know, he's got a much quicker car than myself, so I feel, you know, we might actually struggle to win this rivalry. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see how we do fare against him. And actually moving on into this Canadian Grand Prix, guys, we're going to opt to change over all the engine parts to the third set of parts from each, you know, for the third set of parts for the car here. And, you know, this is probably not ideal, but you know, obviously all the engine parts will not set us back whatsoever, but we are going to move on to all 3, you know, new parts there. It's quite a power-intensive circuit, obviously, the Canadian Grand Prix, and with Baku, I think, lined up next as well, you know, to have fresh engines for these next 2 races will be very ideal. We're also going to go onto the third gearbox there, which unfortunately will mean that we do get a 5-place grid penalty there, which isn't exactly ideal, but we'll most likely be starting down right at the very bottom there. So I'm really not too worried about, you know, starting 3 places further down the order, guys. But let's move on then into qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix, and coming to the end of my first run here, locking up the front inside wheel as we go through the final chicane there, but we do get through quite nicely on the whole there, and down towards the line. It's going to put us up into P6 there, just behind Lance Stroll. Actually not too far off Sebastian Vettel there at that moment in time, and we were just 4 thousandths quicker than Jolyon Palmer until right at the very end of the session there. But the Ferraris do look at the front row there very comfortably over the Mercedes cars there, and, you know, Red Bull currently leading the way overall in the Constructors and Drivers' Championship, and Sebastian Vettel is way off, you know, the top drivers so far this season. But unfortunately, we qualified in P17 there. My teammate Stroll, Van Dorn even, way down in last place there, so not exactly an ideal showing from the McLaren Honda team. We will be starting on the back row of the grid, ready, guys, for the Canadian Grand Prix.
the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Kimi Raikkonen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, and Ricciardo, Stroll, Perez, Ocon, and Felipe Massa, Hülkenberg, Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, and Palmer, Kvyat, Sainz, Marcus Ericsson, and Pascal Wehrlein. Van Dorn and a McLaren rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So here we are then on the grid, ready for the Canadian Grand Prix, guys. You know, hopefully we can get off to quite a nice clean start here. You know, last time we went on to a the fresh engine, it did actually mean that we were able to challenge right up at the point. So, you know, hopefully we can see a repeat of that. But around such a power-intensive circuit like Canada, you know, I have a funny feeling that we might struggle to do that. But on the grid then, ready for the Canadian Grand Prix. It is 5 lights for the start of this race, and it's the lights out. And away we go, and off to a pretty poor start there. Van Dorn trying to have a look between the Saubers there, but they just shut the door on him down in towards turn 1 there. And we're just going to try and have a look down the inside of my teammate Van Dorn there, nearly making a bit of contact, but trying to have a look right around the Saubers outside there. But unfortunately, not able to do that. Van Dorn keeps it on the inside there and does move back up into P19 of the Grand Prix. We're going to chuck it down the inside in towards turn 3 there. A little bit of contact is made between the pair of us there, but we are able to go right around the outside of Stoffel Van Dorn through the next corner, down the inside of Wehrlein in towards turn 5 there. I think that is the start of Sector 2 there. Now, under P18 we go in this Grand Prix. We're on the set of these super soft tyres to try and take myself a little bit further, you know, early on in this Grand Prix. It should be a fairly textbook one-stop race, and through the next corner though, getting a huge slide out on the rear end there, somehow able to keep that facing in the right direction. But now skipping on to lap 3 of the race. Unfortunately, you know, these back marker 4 sort of slipped back a little bit from the rest of the field here as we come through the end of Sector 2, the start of Sector 3 here. What are we going to be able to do? Down in towards the final corner. I'm going to try, well, sorry, the third last corner there. We're going to dive it down the inside of Marcus Ericsson there, up into P17 now of this Canadian Grand Prix there. And now, you know, sort of hoping we can try and gap most of the field here, over, you know, try and catch up to the rest of the field. But Ericsson thinks about trying to have a look right on the outside, down in towards the final couple of corners there, but ends up slotting in just behind me there. And really, you know, for the next few laps, we were just trying to pull away a little bit, you know, from the Saubers and my teammate. And it took us all the way on to lap 9, and, you know, before anything else really started to happen. And by this point, you know, the gap to the Carlos Sainz there in the Toro Rosso just ahead of me was coming down quite a bit. Felipe Massa has already now dived into the pit lane, being the first driver to switch on to a new compound of tyres during this Grand Prix there. So interesting, you know, that some of the front teams are actually having to two-stop this Grand Prix there. Not exactly ideal for them, but, you know, doesn't really bother me. You know, it's just a chance to try and score some points in this race. And now, obviously, a couple more drivers have opted to pit in as we now move up into P13 of the Grand Prix. I think that's Carlos Sainz, Julian Palmer and Kevin Magnussen just up the road there, trying to have a little bit of a squabble as once again the back end of this McLaren Honda does kick out. But now skipping on a couple more laps later on to lap 14 here, and we're down as I think Valtteri Bottas has already been able to sneak by. You know, I'm not going to defend against the much quicker cars than myself. Felipe Massa goes down the inside in towards the final corner there, but there's yellow flags out, and Nico Hülkenberg is just sat in the middle of the final chicane there. The safety car, I think, has been deployed, and not really too sure what has happened there for Nico Hülkenberg. Not really too sure how he's ended up in a position like that. So let's have a look then on the replay cameras here. That's Julian Palmer's point of view, so we don't need him. And on board then with Nico Hülkenberg, he locks up both front wheels there as he gets a wheel on the grass and just completely misses the entrance to the corner there, and then just decides he's going to park it there. He's had enough for the day. Don't think he's really left any sort of room for the rest of the cars there. Unfortunately, the AI do get a little bit funny with that, as they decide they're going to completely bunny hop over the final chicane. They're not really too sure what that is all about. They're Julian Palmer getting a little bit scared of why his teammate's doing so badly, and it does somehow come at that completely unscathed. But the safety car now has been deployed. We've had to let Felipe Massa back through in this race, and for me now, you know, we were going to try and gamble it, go on a bit of a different strategy here, and on the end of lap 15, we're going to try and take a set of the ultra soft tyres right through to the very end of this Grand Prix. And I felt, you know, the ultras we might actually be able to attack a little bit more throughout the field in this Grand Prix there as we get let out of our pit box there. And, you know, we're sort of just trying to think if we can try and stretch these ultras 17, 18 laps. That could put me in nice stead right at the very end of the Grand Prix, guys. But, you know, have to wait and see how that does pan out for myself later on during this race. And now on to the end of lap 17 here. We're now at the end of the safety car period here. We've got Nico Hulkenberg just ahead of me here, and I'm going to try and, you know, get past him as quickly as I possibly can here. And, you know, it's all about just trying to guess when the green flags are going to come out. So I'm going to let off a little bit, and then I'm just going to, one moment, just pick when I'm going to accelerate, and that is now. And the green flags have come out just about perfectly there for myself. We're going to be able to get a little bit of a run on Nico Hulkenberg down the inside in towards the final couple of corners. We go squeezing him out. Van Dorn makes a little bit of a mistake there as well, so we're going to make a double overtake there through the final chicane. Now up into P18 of this Grand Prix I go, and Dani Kvyat now, we just run into the back of him in towards turn 1 here. You know, after the safety car, the AI do seem to park it a little bit behind each other there, and, you know, it's a little bit of a traffic jam like we did see at Monaco last time out, guys. But coming through turn 2 and turn 3 here, and we got Dani Kvyat still just up ahead of me here, down in towards the next corner. We're going to dive it down both him and Verline's inside there. The second time we've dive bombed Verline at that corner, and now up into P16 we go there, but the back end really actually being quite a nuisance at this moment in time, as now we go down the inside of Marcus Ericsson here, up into P15 of the Grand Prix. But as I was saying, you know, the back end feels really, really loose at this moment in time. Not exactly ideal for myself in this Grand Prix. You know, we sort of need a bit more stability on the rear. I don't know if it's, you know, just the fact that we're trying to run rich revs as much as we can. The back end is just very light. The curbs are quite heavy around this track as well. But in towards the final corner there, and Sebastian Vettel, I've just noticed, is facing the wrong way around. So I think we need to have a look what has happened to poor Sebastian there. Here we are then on board with him down in towards the final couple of corners, and I think I can have a guess as to what happens here as we come now down in towards the wall of champion chicane here, and Sergio Perez has just gone straight into the back of poor Sebastian Vettel. You know, he hasn't really had much luck so far this season, and that is certainly not going to help him out. Perez is going to try and dive it into the pit lane there and just go straight into the back of Sebastian. So definitely not what Sebastian needed. Sergio Perez out of the Grand Prix right on the spot there, and Sebastian has actually come out of that pretty much unscathed, which I think, you know, is a little bit lucky for him. He's parked, you know, sort of in that final corner area there. He won't be able to move until the rest of the field go through, and it's now a few more AI are starting to pit in this Grand Prix. I've now moved up into P9 of the Grand Prix here, and if I can take these ultras right through to the very end, you know, this could leave me in quite a strong position in this Grand Prix, guys. But now moving on to the end of lap 21 here, and a few more AI now are once more making pit stops here. You know, we're just trying to make our way up through the field, holding on quite nicely just about to the rear of Roman Grosjean here as we come through. You know, these next couple of laps, though, are going to get a little bit interesting here as Grosjean a little bit slow at turn 2. I'm trying to pile on the power as quickly as I possibly can as we come through the next couple of corners here. I'm going to try and get a good run on Roman Grosjean here, and I'm going to go for my nice typical dive bomb corner here. Am I going to be able to get it down the inside? We go. Grosjean actually makes a bit of a mistake there as well, which makes my move just that little bit easier there. And now up into the podium places we do go in this Canadian Grand Prix here, the second race in a row. But Raikkonen now moving past me there, and very, very aggressive from Kimi Raikkonen there. Not really too sure what that was all about, but he nearly pushed me in. Well, he did push me completely into the wall there, and one lap later now Lewis Hamilton is going to come round, and, you know, he's still piling on the pressure as well. So I'm going to back out of this move just a little bit earlier there as Hamilton, once again, very, very aggressive there. But following on from Hamilton now, and we've lost the back end, and we're in the wall, and we have bottled the Canadian Grand Prix there. Just got on the power that little bit too early there. Let's just have a look at this from the replays. Hamilton goes down my inside. I back out of that nice and early. He gets a little bit confused there down in towards the next corner. Completely parks it. I try and get on the power there, and the back end just breaks away. Felt like, you know, that was a bit of an odd situation there. The back end, sort of, it was gripped in quite nicely, and then suddenly sort of just wasn't. Which, unfortunately for me there, has left me scoring no points in the Canadian Grand Prix there, which, you know, I'm really, really gutted about right at the very end there. You know, I reckon points could have been on the cards once more there, but that's been my, you know, my first proper retirement of the season. Obviously, we didn't make it to the end of Spain, but we opted to save the engine at that Grand Prix. But that's really, really disappointing at the end of the... Well, I say at the end of the Canadian Grand Prix, we were sort of only about 24 laps in. But Ferrari there have taken the race victory. I can only assume that's Kimi Raikkonen, based on how bad Sebastian Vettel's season has been so far. But Raikkonen, therefore, wins his 3rd race of the season there. You know, we've only seen five drivers, finish Grand Prix. And, you know, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen and Ricciardo have each won 1. And Raikkonen has won 3 races so far this season there. So he's, you know, doing very, very well. Ricciardo and Hamilton do round out the podium there as well. So once more, got 3 drivers from 3 different teams on the podium there. But Kimi Raikkonen, he's either do or die in this career mode so far. You know, he either does really, really well or absolutely bottles it there. But, you know, all-round good job from those guys there. You know, would have been nice to have scored some points for myself. But unfortunately, not every Grand Prix can work out for myself, guys. But having a look then at the end of the race there. Valtteri Bottas came in just behind his teammate there with Esteban Ocon doing a fine job up in P5 there. You know, he's been put away by his teammate Sergio Perez a lot during this season, but after Perez's crash, it's nice for Ocon to get some good points there. But Max Verstappen comes through in P6, Lance Stroll in P8 there with Danny Kvyat, my rival, just scoring the final point there, so not exactly ideal for myself there. But it was only myself and Sergio Perez there that did retire from this Grand Prix, and I think Sergio Perez's retirement was a lot more embarrassing than myself, guys. But Van Dorn, unfortunately, there down in P17. Not exactly a good result from him there, not able to capitalise on the safety cars and all the other incidents going on during that Grand Prix there, guys. But that's, you know, a little bit disappointing, but hopefully we don't make those same sorts of mistakes over the next few races. Have a look at the drivers' standings there. Esteban Ocon able to jump me up into P10 overall there, with Felipe Massa also making a few gains there. Us 4 separated up by just 2 points there, as we've got the Toro Rossos tied on 20 points and the Force Indias tied on 30 points there. But Williams overcome McLaren overall in the Constructors, guys. But hopefully, you know, you guys still have enjoyed this video. Do not forget to like, subscribe if you're new around here and you want to see more of my F1 2017 McLaren Honda career mode, guys. But I will see you next time.